Hey everyone, it's Ivan, kitbadger.com, out here for another gear review, and today, talking lasers. This guy right here, which is the Penumbra by AMMJ. We'll go ahead and start with who doesn't like learning new words. Penumbra is apparently kind of like the shaded outer edges of a shadow, and now you learned a new word. But I would double check it because that's just off my memory. What is it? It is a laser aiming module. So over here on this side, give you guys a close-up in a minute, but you have a visible green laser as well as a infrared laser, both adjustable for windage elevation, for aiming. Then over on this side, you have a infrared illuminator. And back here you have actually a lot of controls for said laser. And there's some other kind of neat features built in, so I'll show you that stuff. Looking down at the top of the unit, right here, up, down, same with left, right, and on the other side, this side controls or you adjust rather, for your aiming lasers, and this adjusts for your illumination beam. And there's your fire button right there. If we look on the back of the unit here, over here, this actually adjusts. We can twist that to adjust essentially the beam pattern, and then we have two switches. This goes to G for green, that's your vis laser. Come over here, scroll through low, medium, and high. This one right here, off, low, medium, high, and that is for the output power rather, on the illuminator side of it. So laser side, illuminator side, off, straight up. Rocket to the right, you're in infrared mode. To the left, you can only do on the laser, you'll be in the visible mode. And then this right here, you can actually plug plug a switch in, like crane plug, if you're gonna run a remote tape switch, something like that. Well, I guess you can kind of see it on this side. It actually uses, the bottom of it is a footprint from a Aimpoint. So you can put any Aimpoint mount on there, this being a low mount. And up here, you see these studs right there sticking up, and then these screw holes right there. You can actually, it's patterned for a RMR. So yeah, I guess I'll speak to that. Oh yeah, and then before I speak to that, if we look at the front of it, in the middle here, flip this thing out. I can do that, maybe not. Flip that guy out, and there we go, or not. But basically you twist that to access the battery right there. Runs off of one CR123. Before I talk about my use and how it's done for me, I guess I'll speak to some of these features since I just kind of went over them. I think some of them are kind of neat, some I also just don't like. So for starters, the laser or your aiming lasers is offset from the center line of the bore. Kind of weird. Basically legacy, like, oh, what if I have a fixed front sight post? Well, kind of nobody does anymore. And if you're trying for a mill contract, I feel like hopefully sooner than later, those guns will also not have a fixed front sight post, but it has it, which in turn you run into the whole thing of zeroing, like how do I zero? Does it converge, parallel forever, whatever, versus if you have a laser, center line over the bore, close to the bore, all you will ever do is hold high, like converge at 100, hold high, anything past that, you're done, which is cool. But this is off to the side, similar to a PEC 15 or something along those lines. Also, if we do have a fixed front sight post, hopefully it's far forward, because to access the battery, you have to get that. And so if you have a fixed front sight post, you'll probably have to remove that and then confirm zero, but it is what it is. There are these covers on here, which are on there. I might have lost that one actually. But as I mentioned, this footprint up here and the mount itself for a Aimpoint, pretty cool if you want to try it out. When I say try it out, there's a lot of mounts out there these days that are basically, they're not my thing, but they're apparently a lot of people's thing. So the idea being, you move your laser up and then you move your optic even higher up, and it potentially frees up real estate, something like that. Maybe. You can do it. And so what this will allow you to do is basically take this laser unit, put it on, we'll say like ScalarWorks Leap mount, like a 154 mount, then mount an RMR on top of there, and now you have just that, like without having to go buy a special expensive mount that has all kinds of crazy risers on it for you to then mount your optic and then mount your laser onto it. And so if nothing else, the opportunity to try it out and realize, hey, maybe it's not for me. Reason I say that, and to each their own for sure, but everything comes with a tail, honestly. And so it can already be hard trying to get a laser that's offset zeroed, and then furthermore, trying to actually make a low probability shot at night under night vision. There's math involved, especially if you have like a partially obscured target. Think about someone hiding behind someone else, hostage taker, and you have like just that quarter of the face. You're like, okay, cool, like let me do some quick math. This is now another 1.5 inches higher and over here, and we're close, so I'm gonna eat that entire mechanic. Like, that's a lot of stuff to do at probably a time and place you don't really want to have to do that math. Can it be done? Absolutely, but there's a lot of training that comes with it. Same to a optic mounted even that much higher, and then yeah, just that mechanical standoff. I get it, you're shooting cardboard on the range at a 25-yard indoor range because that's what you have, or whatever, none of it matters. If for whatever reason you need to take that low probability shot and your loved one's life is on the line, I don't know, it's a lot of math to do at that point in time. Is it real? Maybe for some people, or not, so it doesn't really matter. Personally, not a fan of that high mount setup, but I do really appreciate that this gives you an easy way, because everyone has Aimpoint mounts, some sort of optic that'll fit an RMR footprint, and you're in business. You can at least, if nothing else, try it out and be like, hey, this works for me, awesome. If not, no worries. Like, you already had the mount probably. But back to this laser aiming module and how I've used it. Well, I have used this unit a bunch, just training, either flat range or maybe some shoot house runs, things like that. I've also actually shot it in a couple different classes. One of the classes I shot it in was with AMTech shooting. It was a 2-day kind of pistol, carbine, everything night vision class. And I had this thing on there, definitely got a bunch of reps with it on there. And I also used this actually at another class. I shot this at a 3-day, actually on this gun, which is really cool. I actually shot it at a 3-day, I guess it was a low light carbine class. Again, shooting this boombox in a 6 blackout, really, really fun. And thing actually did a really good job for me. That was a really fun class too, because aside from a little bit of stuff like on the flat range, everything was pretty much natural terrain and unknown distance targets. And this did a great job for me there. And since someone would probably ask, quick rundown on this gun real quick. This is the Boombox by Q in 8.6 blackout. Pork chop silencer on here. This right here is their kickstand bipod. This right here is the barricade stop or hand stop by Die Free Company. Of course, the Penumbra. Vampire light by Surefire. 100 Concepts light cap. This guy by Valhalla Tactical. I don't know, always reminds me of Gumdrop, forget what it's called. It's a light switch. Don't remember who makes the Sling keeper. This right here is the Hydura Sling, Viking Tactics, thing's cool. And then this Blue Force Gear U-loop and the Kung Fu grip by Die Free Company. But what is the output like? Well, I actually went out to a range and yeah, here's what I got. Looking through not only the camera that I was running that picks up all the IR, but also show you some footage from my mission recorder that I was using also on my DT NVSs. Right here is the Penumbra. That is, I think, on low. Need to turn my laser on. Switches. Should be low, low. Oh, laser's not on. Low, low right there. And getting some shadow from my light. But then we can, I'll just double tap this. And then we can adjust the divergence some. And that right there is essentially a BC at about 50 yards. Open that back up. And then over there is a guy at 100 yards. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the intensity up on the illuminator. Oh, maybe that turned it off. Oh, there we go. I gotta actually move between or it turns off if I try and switch between settings, I guess. So now we should be medium. 5/8 man at 100 yards. Double click that on. Go ahead and adjust that divergence. Come all the way out. And there's a 5/8 man at 200 yards. Move it all the way back in. It's probably going to turn off when I go to high. Yep, there it went. So now that is high. Definitely not centered in that beam, but it's actually pretty good considering, man, let's see illumination. It's at least like 3/4 of the moon, 3/4 full. Open that up. Again, that's a 5/8 man at 200 yards right there, which I probably should ask. Can we see that in that camera?
Yeah. You can see it.
Okay, cool. So 5/8 man, 200 yards. Now, again, this is on high. That's really visible. That guy at 50 yards there, that BC. Again, at high in the smallest divergence, 100 yards. Out there, I could definitely make that shot. That's 300 yards. It's kind of hard to see. It'd probably be easier to see if this was a darker night, but I guess context is important. Have a mall C1, so we'll see what that looks like next to it. There is, oh, I guess that is, okay. It's like, man, that's really high. So that right there is low, high. Click over into the middle part. Definitely, well, one, it's actually centered, which is nice. And then I think we have one more, yeah. There's an even higher setting on the mall. So I guess that would be 4 of 5. And then I'll switch this guy over. And that is 5 of 5 on the mall. Which, I don't know. Penumbra actually does pretty good. Looking down at the ground, definitely, as far as the light, definitely looks kind of a little dirtier. I'm imagining it's the lens that this is actually like focusing on here. Just a little bit dirtier of light. What are my thoughts? Honestly, pretty pleased with it. I think it does a good job. I will say, I don't know if they have the newest version. This is the first version, but I believe he's going to switch rather from this crane plug to a USB-C port. And what that'll do is actually free up some space back here for the unit. Because I will say there is not much space at all to be able to manipulate these. And like, it's hard enough during the day looking at it without gloves, let alone at night with gloves. It gets really difficult. To include, this one is actually the easiest, but when you're trying to manipulate these switches in between, it gets really hard. So idea being, get rid of that port because USB-C will be smaller, spread those out. Not sure if that's done. I do like the fact that you can actually change basically the beam divergence with this, and it's a fair bit as far as what it plays. There's not like a full-on flood necessarily on this, which in part is why I have a vampire light on here, because vampire light actually does a pretty good job of, it's not a super tight beam, and so it's kind of a stopgap in between, well, yeah, for respective illumination under knots, to be able to use this. And if I need something tighter, I can go ahead and use this, especially being able to crank that down and adjust beam divergence, which I think is pretty cool. The button up here, it works. I will say it's very easy to fatigue out, especially if you're trying to manipulate that as like a momentary, because if you press and hold, it will be momentary. If you double click it, constant on. But pressing and holding, especially just trying to keep clamping force like that for an extended period of time, especially when you start getting cold, it is rough. And I'll find under recoil, like my thumb will come off of it, just being able to try and keep that. And you're like, well, I'll just double click it. Maybe, but then I'm usually trying to fight to turn the thing off. So it is what it is. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe a remote actual, like one of the clicky buttons by, I want to say Unity Tactical, but it absolutely works either way. As far as the price for the unit, looking at about $1,000. Is that expensive? Well, we're already talking about night vision, so you're already in it a lot of money. And honestly, as far as if you said, hey, I have $1,000 budget for a laser aiming module, that's pretty solidly within that price point. One thing, again, not a huge fan of, but I really appreciate the ability to do, is if you want to experiment, or if you're just like, hey, I want to, for whatever reason, run this laser up high and run an optic on top of it, like you can do that with this unit, which is actually really cool. Again, as I mentioned, even for just a personal fact-finding mission, to be like, hey, does this work for me? And am I willing to invest the time in training to deal with respective offset issues or anything like that? Pretty cool. And like I said, it definitely just works as a laser aiming device. I have had really good experience with this. Also just holding zero. Granted, keep in mind, whatever you put it on, this boombox actually has a continuous top rail, so pretty much zero rail flex, but it's done a good job holding zero for me as well. If it's something you're interested in, there'll be a link down below. You can check it out. But yeah, as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.